Hello traders, and welcome back to another market update. We're going to be taking a look here at the currency market to see what's going on in terms of technical analysis right now. Got a lot of moving going on these charts, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. What you can see here is on Euro USD, we recently had this kind of low here right around the 1.0781 level, and you can see we actually held that level very nicely. Then we came back down to it shortly after and busted through just to reverse. We kind of had a fake out to the bottom there on Euro USD. Now, the interesting thing is we are currently retesting that area once more, and I think it's possible that maybe we see something like a bounce off of this level going forward, but ultimately my bias on this pair long term is still to the downside due to the fact that we've got that long-term downtrend structure. If we take a look at the long-term chart, we zoom out a little bit, you can still see we do have this kind of overall slow chug to the downside, which I think price still wants to respect. So when we made this move up here, we were very quickly spiked back down to the downside, and as we spiked once more recently, we're seeing a similar result. And so I think that price really does want to push lower overall, and I think that we could be headed back underneath the long-term lows in the next few weeks. That is my opinion. We'll see what happens. GBP USD is our next one here. You can see on the daily chart, price making a nice movement up. We did not quite get to our 200 period moving average, which we recently talked about here on the market updates. We talked about the idea that price could be headed back up. So I still think that it's possible that maybe we see a little bit further push, maybe to retest that 200 period simple moving average. Now we have seen a pretty impressive rise here on GBP pairs and especially GBP USD. We saw price really rally to the downside, and now price is actually finding a pretty good bounce. We're seeing a lot of bullishness come in right around this area towards the lows. And now the question is, again, can we make it to that 200 period, and will it stop there, right? I think the first thing we need to do is see if price can make it to that point in which we would kind of reevaluate and see what's going on. The big thing here is I think that GBP has been stretched quite a bit, and I think it's possible that we do see a little bit further move to the upside. Now, I guess we could see probably fair to point out we've got some Fibonacci levels that we could consider, right? So if price were to maybe pull back a little bit more to the 38.2, maybe we could get the energy we need to push off and to see a continuation to something like that 200 period. That might actually be a decent trade setup if you also have a bullish bias like I do. So we'll see what's going on next with USD/JPY, finding a nice bounce here. If we draw some fibs, this looks like it may have hit a level. We'll see if it did. Yep, it held right around the 38.2. You can see a little bit of consolidation right here before ultimately shooting up. The big thing here, of course, is can we get that continuation back to the high? I think it's very possible, and I also think that it's possible that we see a move back to the previous high here, right around that 112.20 level. So that's what I'll be looking for. I think that we have potential to see price head up to that way, and I think there might be some pullback plays along the move up. So keep an eye out on that. What are some major levels? Well, we've also got this level here to look out for. This was a previous top. You can see a lot of resistance here and here, right? And then so that might be, we also saw a little bit of support there before price ultimately broke lower. So I think that's one of our first stops right here. And from there, can we get back to that 112.20 level? We'll see how price plays out. Next up is gold, and gold is still making a chug to the upside. You can see we actually did get a pullback, right? So we had price come up, we pulled back, and now price is holding this level. Big thing here, of course, is can we get back above this level right here? If we get above this level, if we break it nicely, I think you have a pretty good chance to see something like this play out where we go back to tag that previous high there on gold. Next up, we have, what is it? We've got Brent crude oil. Next, you can see this one really interesting. We had a huge bounce here off oil. You can see trading back from 23.76, right around the lows there, all the way to, at one point, we were trading at 34.10. You can see really big bullish spike there. And the question is, does it have room to run? Well, I think it's possible. We don't know, of course, if this is the bottom or not, but it looks like we have a pretty solid stance here by the bulls that they want to try and form a bottom here. There may be some pullback plays. If you're a short-term intraday trader, I'm sure there's a lot of volatility to be looking at there and to keep an eye on. I think it's possible that maybe we head back to this point here first if we do see that bullish continuation, and from there may be a trade to fill that gap. gap. That would be a really, really interesting concept if we can get oil to see a continuation to the upside there. So next we've got Euro GBP. Euro GBP pull back to the 61.8, and so far so good, holding it. As we had talked about, we talked about this level right here, and we are seeing that play out so far. So we will see if that can get a bounce. If so, where could we head? Well, we've got some levels to think about. We've got some previous resistance here, right? So that could be a first stop. And of course, we've got this level here and the recent high. So those are some levels to think about on Euro GBP. Finally, we have AUD USD, which is finding sellers come in and pushing price lower. Again, fundamentals very, very bearish here on this market. The Australian dollar has gotten crushed recently, and the US dollar has been pretty strong overall. So big thing here is we've got this downtrend structure. I still think that we could be due for a jump up to this trend line. And if there is a jump to that point, there might be a good setup for a sell trade in favor of the downtrend, in my opinion. All right, guys, thanks very much for joining me for today's market update. I hope you got something out of it, and we'll see you next time.